I'd like to introduce Sam. And he does have copies of his book available too if people would like to pick one up, because to get this it was very hard. It took 8 weeks in special order and things, so I asked him to bring some with him today if people are interested. Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon, for bringing us all together. Thank you all for coming out. Also, thank you to Muhammad Ali, who's not here, but Muhammad Ali Amor is at George Brown College, and that's why I'm actually in town, was he brought me out to speak yesterday at a hip hop and empowerment conference that Mindbender and Corey performed at. Is anybody else here that was there? Of course, Alexis and Cindy also. It's my family from Cuba. We met in Cuba in what, 2005? And he's not lying, man. He runs things. He did everything. I learned so much in just a couple weeks with him down there. It was amazing. So thank you for having me, hosting me here. I never thought when we met in Havana that we'd be together in cold-ass Toronto. And yeah, thank you, Mahlikah, for blessing the space. So I'm in like a weird spot because I have so much great stuff I'd love to share. And also, like, this is an incredible group. I'm not just saying that. This is an incredible group. I travel around the country. I talk about this work. It's very rare that I'm in a room like this with so many practitioners who are in one way or another making, hip hop artists, legit hip hop artists who really are focused on their craft, who are educators who are doing this stuff daily with young people, whether it's gang intervention or in the classroom or whatnot, or both, which just seems like a lot of this room is. It's pretty incredible. Does this happen all the time? Do you all just get together like this? No. So I hope that this is like an excuse to everyone get each other's information. The Hip Hop Ed chat is huge, but also Brandon started up for tonight, hashtag Hip Hop Ed TO. So if you're on Twitter, use it. Yep. I'm Huslington, HUSSLINGTON. That's my Twitter hashtag, and I started the Hip Hop Ed chat with Chris Emden and another gentleman named Brandon Frame 2 years ago, and it's just like blown up to be like an international conversation, which is incredible. So, I mean, for me, I get fed from doing this. This is really great to be here and meeting all of you. So, I'm not going to do my usual presentation. I've got like a whole hour. I do PowerPoint slides and all that, and I rap for people and, play videos and this and that. But I do want to just give you a little bit about my work. And then also, I put together just kind of freestyle in the spirit of hip hop. A couple things that I think are not great about hip hop education, and a couple things that I think we need to do more of. All right, so here's the deal. I get to travel around and talk with a lot of educators, a lot of hip hop heads, and so I wanted to share with you rather than talking, because I can talk a lot more about what was in the video, but that's just like a little taste, and I hope I got 10 books here. Don't make me carry them home, they're heavy. You know what I mean? Please cop one after the fact, and anybody here who's read it can attest. I put 10 years into writing the book, so it's a labor of love. And plus, George Clinton wrote the foreword, the godfather of hip hop, and Herb Cole, godfather of progressive education, wrote the preface. So definitely, I hope you'll check it out. But I wanted to tell you about just some of my observations from traveling around. I'm also the hip hop education scholar in residence at Columbia University Teachers College this year, and have been a part of 2 think tanks between them and NYU. And so I've really gotten to meet a lot of the folks doing hip hop education around the globe. And I wanted to just share some observations in the form of challenges and then some ideas for suggestions or solutions. And the first one is that I feel like what we're doing a lot of times in hip hop education is too literal and too literary. So what do I mean by that? I feel like, as I was saying in the video, we can use hip hop as a metaphor, right? We can think about what hip hop culture has done within the music space and how young people have come in and completely changed an industry, right? To the point where now every artist has their own record label, owns their own intellectual property, is spanning off and doing, fragrances and clothing lines and all these different, owning stadiums, all these different kind of, it's a very entrepreneurial approach, all that. We can use that metaphorically, right? And so much of the hip hop education that's out there, and this is not a bad thing, this is exactly what I did when I started teaching in the prison, is about rap lyrics, basically, which is great. I mean, I'm a certified English teacher, that's what I do. So I would come in with rap lyrics and we would analyze them, or students would write rap lyrics, which is always great to get young people creating. Or we'd sometimes watch videos and analyze those. I'm very into the critical analysis, right? Rather than forcing the rap music I like, which is like old now, on my students. I mean, I do a little bit of that, but I really like to know, what are you listening to? Okay, wow, Chief Keef, whoa, I just watched those videos. That's some stuff. So tell me, what do you like about it, right? Like learning from them and then listening and bringing the lyrics in and analyzing it. All that literary stuff is great, but I think hip-hop education can be a lot more. And I think sometimes we're boxing ourselves in, and hip-hop education, people are using that as synonymous with playing a rap song in a class, and I think it can be a lot bigger. I talk in the book about something. How many of y'all have dogs? Wow, no dogs. Okay. When you want to get your dog to take a pill, how do you do it?
Peanut butter.
Right, the pill and the peanut butter, right? And that's how hip hop is often used. We really want to teach them this English standard, but we're going to hide it in a rap song, which they never really fall for very long, you know, and try to sort of trick students into learning what we want them to know. So that's what I'm pushing back here with Too Literal and Too Literary, is to say, rather than trying to trick students, let's find out what they want to know, let's be real with them, and let's build something together. The second is we haven't caught up with ourselves yet. I said we haven't caught up with us. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of us still have the mentality that I first had when I started teaching in the juvenile prison in the 90s, which was I have to sneak this in. Like, I'm here as a student teacher, I could get kicked out at any time, I've got the little boombox, I hope no one sees it in my bag, you know, oh, don't turn it up that loud, you know, like, we're really shook, and there was good reason to be, because there was a lot of haters. But I think we're in a really different place now. I mean, hip-hop has been around for decades, people have been doing hip-hop education for decades, and there's a lot more space for it. There's principals running schools who are hip-hop heads. The president of the United States is, you know, has hip-hop on his iPod. He probably wouldn't say he's a hip-hop head, but he gets it, you know what I mean? We've come to this different place where there's a lot more space for it, and I think we still a lot of times act like we have to kind of ask permission for everything, and we have to sneak it in. So I really, you know, I want to encourage us all to be proud of what we're doing, seek allies, you know, find those hip-hop heads who are in the school district who really support and understand this stuff, and build it up. And then we don't battle enough. And what I mean by that, actually, this is a conversation that started when I was working on the book with a guy named Michael Sorelli, who runs a program in New York called Urban Word. And I talk about, he has a book called Hip Hop Poetry and the Classics, where he uses hip hop to talk about how to get kids to study classic poetry. And it's all aligned with standards and all this stuff, which is cool. You know, I had some beefs with the book, but I didn't talk about it in my book. In my book, I said, oh, it's great. And then I had lunch with him one day, and he was like, yeah, that book is, Hip Hop Poetry in the Classics is kind of stupid. I wish I hadn't done it that way. And I'm like, oh. Like, he has a harsher critique of his own book than I have, but I'm not saying it because I think a lot of times we're so worried about getting attacked from the outside, you know, from haters who would like to shut all the stuff we're doing down, that we don't critique each other. And that's a very risky thing to do because it means we're allowing sloppy practices to be out there. Does that make sense? Like, we're allowing people to do stuff with hip hop that's actually not that tight because we're afraid to just be like, yeah, that to me, that's not actually very good. It's not good education, or you're not really listening to your students, or whatever the case is. So I think we need to, however we do it, we need to really challenge each other more, right? And part of what's cool about you all being here in this room and getting to know each other and maybe coming together more is that you can start to have those battles. And they don't have to be out in public for everyone to hear, but I think it's really important. So Chris and I committed, like, we're gonna, Chris Emden, we were talking about, we're going to do that with each other. We're going to really try to battle and sharpen each other's swords. I mean, that's how rappers got good, right? And breakers, you know, everybody. In hip-hop art forms, you battle, and you have to bring your best stuff, and you're constantly elevated because you want to be better than everyone else. We're not doing that in hip-hop education. We're congratulating each other. Oh, that's great, all the time. We're never saying, you know, I actually have some critique of that.
I'm glad you said that. It's a really amazing concept, but it's weird because with hip-hop education, we are literally taking an art form that's been maligned by society and shunned by society and trying to use it as a tool to educate the same society that hates it and the children that are destroyed by it. So It's like we're in this middle space where we all need to be constructively critical to each other, but I mean, everything now about hip-hop is if you say anything critical, you're a hater, period. And even though like all of us are, you know, we come from a generation where before '92, the word hater didn't exist. If you didn't like Vanilla Ice, you were not a hater. If you didn't like KRS-One, you were not a hater. Or NWA, you're just like, I'm not feeling that. But nowadays, like, everybody's made to compete against each other capitalistically and on the internet and every YouTube, all this stupid shit. So it's like, I mean, I don't think any of us really are in a vibe where we're competing against each other. Like, oh damn, screw that teacher, yo, take him out.
But it's the healthy competition, though. I mean, I completely feel what you're saying. But you know, Chris Emden, who does the science work, you know, he does battles with his students to get them to memorize. You know, like you think about it, you ask kids to memorize stuff for a test, we know a lot of them won't do it. You tell them you're going to be up in front of the class and you have to battle someone on your science knowledge, freestyle, and they come in knowing everything because they don't want to get embarrassed in front of the class. I mean, that's the kind of battling I'm talking about us doing with each other. It's not like really trying to chop each other's legs off, permanently, but it's about just sharpening each other's swords. I don't know if that makes sense, but you're absolutely right. I mean, that even within like hip hop culture, like the space for critique has gotten funny, amongst artists.
That's all I'm kind of saying. But I love your idea, and I'm totally with you as far as using it to evolve. And it's just that we're in a world where like competition and conflict and battling and really constructive criticism instead of destructive criticism, which is what virtually everything in the world is today. Every YouTube comment, everyone's just like, screw you. It's not like, I like this, but I don't like that. It's like, I want to remove you from existence. You shouldn't be doing art. You shouldn't breathe. Kill you and your family. But it's like, no. But yeah, I'm with you.
No, I think it's moved away from that. I mean, I'll say personally, I used to battle all the time. I haven't battled in years, and I don't know. Maybe it's connected to what you're talking about. I don't know. I gotta think more about that. But
you're a wise kung fu master. You gotta choose the right battles.
I think the most overlooked thing in a lot of the hip hop education work is we think, oh, this is gonna be so relevant because I loved hip hop when I was in high school, and so I'm gonna bring this Fuji song in and play it, and my students are gonna love it, or whatever the case is. And we have these conceptions, which a lot of times we're right, but sometimes we're not, right? And we can do a lot of harm by making a lot of assumptions about our students. So it's hip-hop education even if you never play a rap song, right? It's about really listening to your students, being innovative, sampling, flipping, and all that. So I really encourage you all to think bigger, sample, flip, listen and follow your students, and to document it all. Thanks for having me up here. I look forward to rapping with everyone. And don't forget to go to the book as well.